Fuck yes. We have a great... Well, I have no idea. I'm hoping that this is great, but at least it's a good subject matter to be discussing. I am actually excited for a movie that is out right now, and I found a cracked stream of it online. For all you fucking squares, you can find it on YouTube for $4 in standard definition. Or I think UHD, 4K, whatever the fuck it is $5, like $4.99 or something like that. But yeah, we have a really good one on deck right now. It's I thought it was going to get a theatrical release. I guess it did, but like in limited areas because I didn't see any around here. But we are watching Fear and Loathing in Aspen. Yeah. Fuck yeah. I actually have a new movie to review. This seldom happens. I forgot what it was like to be excited about a fucking new movie. I can't think of the last movie I was actually excited about. Well, that's not true. I was pretty excited about Green Knight, and then I've been basing a lot of my movie decision making, like what I am choosing to view, based on just podcasts I listen to. And I heard Shane Gillis talking a bunch of shit on the Green Knight, and he was like, yeah, it was kind of cool when they were at the round table, but everything else about it was fucking garbage. It's like trying too hard to be an art house film, and just took like way too long. And I'm like, okay. And then kind of read some reviews that said the same thing, and everybody like defending A24. Like, look, A24, I'll give them this. They take risks on films that no fucking regular like production house would take with a fucking, like no fucking chance. Not even fucking close. They're adventurous. They kind of come off like the way TriStar Columbia used to come off of, and like Miramax, like all those kind of like lower end ones that were like all these production houses that were just like taking risks and throwing money at fucking movies that basically had no business being on the big screen. Like they were meant to be like fucking kind of the equivalent of like off-Broadway play, like a black box theater play, something to the effect of that, or like seeing a fucking show at like a grimy punk club like CBGB's. That's kind of the echelon that like those films were supposed to be made with. And A24 is like in the esteem of that, but they just kind of give it a little bit more of a budget, like it's higher end. And in doing so, they've actually allowed a lot of directors to really explore some cool fucking shit. I know that Denis Villeneuve has an A24 film out. I'm not going to bother looking it up right now. I'm probably going to forget. You can Google me and it'll probably tell me I got it wrong. Not that anybody else listens to this shit anyway, but yeah, like A24 like takes risks. I thought that this was going to be an A24 film, but actually it is a Shout film. I think it's called Shout Entertainment, but I've noticed that they're kind of like buying up the rights to a lot of other shit, like shit that came out that's like so far fucking beyond like out of fucking copyright and licensing, and then they're taking it, either making it into box sets or just re-releasing it outright if it's got like a market for it. Like I'm pretty sure that I was looking up Cannibal Holocaust the other day, and I don't know if it was the DVD, the Blu-ray, or the multi-format. I forget which, but I think Shout Entertainment had one of those. And that was pretty cool. Like, I was pretty happy about that. I'm glad to see that they're coming out with original content, though. That's like, that makes me so fucking happy, because I do enjoy their choice in movies to like remaster and re-release, or, however they choose to do it. I do appreciate that. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, I'm pretty stoked on this. This is fucking awesome. So I trust that it's in good hands. Like, I don't know how capable anybody involved with this film is. In fact, I have no fucking idea. The guy that plays Hunter S. Thompson really does look like him, but I have no idea who he is. I thought it was Tom Hardy for like a split second, but it's not. It's some other dude that kind of looks vaguely like him. And yeah, I have no idea who the director is. I have no idea who's in this film. But like, I kind of dig that about it, because not that Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, because Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas came out at a time where Benicio del Toro was pretty well established. Johnny Depp was extremely established. Like, he'd been around. He was kind of one of the 90s bad boys of Hollywood, much to Benicio del Toro's benefit too. He was kind of like one of the, I vaguely remember him being remembered, like being known as a heartthrob kind of guy, I guess. Like, he's like kind of more on the looks, not so much the acting licks right off the bat, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm talking completely out of my ass. This is pure speculation, but I just remember that like those guys were like relatively well known, and all the cameos in fucking Fear and Loathing are like pretty, name brand. Like you got people that Cameron Diaz is in it for a minute, fucking Gary Busey's in it. Like there's like a lot of well known actors and actresses that are in that film as cameos or bit parts, or even the main leads. So seeing that this is kind of like an indie film, and the last film, there's one that I think came out that I still haven't fucking seen. I know that there's Where the Buffalo Roam, where Bill Murray plays Hunter, and that was that's an interesting film. It's people kind of claim it as more of like a purist form of like what Hunter S. Thompson was about, because I guess it did kind of go a little bit more in the creative direction where it wasn't so off the rails and like a psychedelic nightmare, but it was like a little more grounded and just exploited his eccentricities. But like arguably Johnny Depp does a very good Hunter, and like people do appreciate that. And that's why I think the other film that he played Hunter in, which is called The Rum Diaries. I read that book before I read Fear and Loathing, by the way. That was one of my favorite fucking books. It was what inspired me to start traveling. I went to Canada a few times. I went the opposite direction. I didn't go down the Caribbean because I don't speak Spanish very well, but I do speak un peu français. A little fucking... I think I just did this on the last episode too, but I can't fucking remember to save my life. I can speak a little bit of Spanish, I can speak a little bit of French, but I'm not well versed in either of them. I prefer to poorly speak English like I'm doing as such. But anyway, back on topic. I think that the critical reception of The Rum Diaries was so bad because people were expecting it to be like a Terry Gilliam film. But Terry Gilliam is just kind of Terry Gilliam, and that's not indicative of who Hunter S. Thompson is. I would say, if anything, Ralph Steadman encapsulated him perfectly, but Ralph Steadman is a vastly different person, especially like after seeing him and Hunter hanging out like in a plethora of documentaries. Ralph Steadman is a completely different human being than A, his artwork, and B, like Hunter ever was. And he's got this like groundedness about his persona. This is Ralph, that is, that he like definitely externalizes in his artwork, whereas Hunter is just himself all the fucking time, and I absolutely identify with that. But like I kind of understand where this cartoonish like not like hang up, but like kind of like this like cartoonish like psychedelic bad trip disposition of like people seeing him as that, and like especially it being amplified by the success of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which is a Terry Gilliam film. Like the Rum Diaries was much more grounded, and it was a much more interesting, like not intricate, but like there's a lot going on in that film that's very character reliant, which all of the actors are fucking perfect for. That film is brilliantly acted. Giovanni Ribisi's character in that film is one of my favorites. The only name I can remember is fucking Chenault, which is the chick, the female lead in that film and book. But yeah, like I think that film is like much better than Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas if you're a fan of Thompson. But then again, like there's another one that I think came out that I can't remember. Mark will have to fucking remind me of it. But I'm just a fan of his literature. I'm a fan of his articles. I'm a fan of the movies that are made in his esteem. I'm a fan of the movies that were made about him, documentary style or otherwise. I just am like, I'm very excited. I haven't been this giddy to see a movie in a really fucking long time. So I hope this is, it is up to, if not surpasses my, expectations. And like, I'm not even sure, I'm looking forward to the indie aspect of it. I don't entirely know what that's going to entail, but I bet that it's going to make it like marginally better for people that are very purist and appreciate his work and savor his work the way that I do. And this is a pretty cool story. I'm not entirely sure of the details and where this really starts, but I do know this is about him running for sheriff of Aspen back in the 70s, I believe. And he didn't win, but like he was just very kooky and very sarcastic throughout, which is one of the other things that's like he's very magnetic to people that have an appreciation for spoken and written word. Where you can, without like even seeing it on the page, you can sense the irony and sarcasm, just like by the intonation and like kind of inflection, his vocabulary, everything about it. Like I'm so smitten on it. So I'm curious to see what this beholds. Fucking beholds. What the fuck? I'm giving myself one of those. Fuck you, Joe. Fucking talking about linguistics and acting like you know something. Like a fucking fucker. I'm just gonna cuss at myself in the mirror, not even watch the movie, just yell at myself for an hour and a half. But I think we've about covered everything. I'm pretty excited for this one. So yeah, without further ado, we are watching Fear and Loathing in Aspen. All right. That was a fucking really interesting film. First, I am not going to agree with the online reviews. I'm going to say this is a solid 8 out of 10 movie. The wit is on point. The guy that they got to play Hunter, I'm going to have to just pull up the IMDb right now because the only person I remembered is Bobby Kennedy III is the director, and I've never fucking heard of who this fucking guy is or anything he's fucking done. Jesus Christ, what was I looking for? Yeah, all right, so here we go. The guy that played him is Jay Bolger. Jay Bolger, never heard of him either, but yeah, let's talk about everything. Let's get into it. I like this. My initial reaction to this film is it was a good film, but I can understand the frustration if you have no interest in the topic of Hunter S. Thompson's actual like personal life or anything that isn't really the eccentricities or the caricature of himself that has been presented and kind of, like I said in the beginning, like become kind of his image and character for the zeitgeist. He was kind of a wacky introverted dude. The more you get to like learn about, it's like he was like a criminal, but with like a bizarre set of morals, in which like freedom always kind of like reigns supreme. And this film definitely encapsulates that. It definitely encapsulates the it kind of like it's shoehorned. I want to call it like shoehorned. It is kind of like noticeably forced, but I'm not gonna say like they tried to like bludgeon you over the head with it. They do like certainly try to bludgeon you over the head with a bunch of other themes, but I kind of have to give this film like a shitload of leeway. I don't even know what, because there's no Wikipedia page about it, and there's like not much on IMDb about it other than like the actors and actresses, and like there's really not much to go on here. But this film was very much affected by the pandemic last year, and from what it seems that I've read on Wikipedia, it would appear that this at one point was supposed to be some kind of documentary, and I think that they were trying to do some kind of recreations with this guy that kind of looked like him, and then the film needed filler because the documentary kind of was going nowhere, or it might have been the other way around. They might have overshot for the documentary. I really don't know. There's nothing to work on, but like I can kind of see how like that translates to what the finished product is here. So I'm giving it a huge amount of leeway. And on top of that, they made a fucking stellar film for what they had to work with. It's great. They like there's like a few like noticeable things. It gets a little film schooly. It could have been a little bit tighter. They try to like consistently capture this aesthetic of like an old 70s like Aspen. There is a character throughout the film who is just like filming everything on like a little like Super 8 camera, and Hunter I guess like takes a likening to him, and he just like brings him around and makes him like the official like documentarian of like the history that is the campaign for him to be sheriff. So like I guess like that aesthetic is kind of like supposed to be matched by like not only like the film itself, but like there's not really much disconnect between the aesthetic that provides the actual aesthetic of the authentic Super 8 film that's like very casual. Like there's like newsreel footage as well that's not Super 8, that's like other, I don't know, digital, or I'm not entirely sure, but it's not, it's like whatever, like broadcast quality footage. Yeah, like there's just like shit in there that's like interspersed throughout that does have this like, it's authentic, so it's like they try to like match the aesthetic of that, which is fine. Like there's nothing noticeable about it. Like it's not like this is a film that's like going out of its way to try and win any awards for cinematography. They're like, we're just trying to make a functional film, I guess, with what they had at their disposal. And for what it's fucking worth, this was entertaining. If you're at all interested in Hunter S. Thompson, this is a great film. Like, just sit back, enjoy it. It's not him being his normal kooky self that you have like come to expect of like Johnny Depp or like, you know, maybe Bill Murray, whoever it fucking is. Like it really, it's like somebody that's like paying homage to a great guy. Like, yeah, the dude doesn't really like get all of like the facial tics, but like for what it's worth, they just dress him correctly and he does what he needs to fucking do. He takes it very like lighthearted and seriously. He's also, I guess, like with the detriment of like not completely immersing himself in this, it looks like it was kind of like quickly done, whereas like Johnny Depp lived with Hunter Thompson for a really fucking long time and like they stayed buddies at well after the movie was like finished. And like just to get into the, you know, whatever the like not character actor, what the fuck am I talking about, method acting, that's what I'm looking for. Stanislavski's method acting. But yeah, like you got to like you got to immerse yourself in this guy. I'm assuming did not have the luxury of that. He was probably going off of like other people's performances as well as like, you know, footage and archives of him. So like, yeah, it makes sense. And like, but for what it's worth, it's functional. It's not, this is not a film where it's like really about like the film, like the acting or anything. It's like, do you enjoy a weird story about a dude? And like, they completely ignored like the other half of the story where like he was running, the dude that was like running for the mayor, the reason the mayor resented him so much, and I don't really understand if this was even addressed at all, and like I wasn't aware of this until I looked up the Wikipedia because the article was published in Rolling Stone, so you do get like a little kind of snapshot of like what it was if you can find the archive of that, or just gloss over it in the Wikipedia like I did. But yeah, he was like apparently running this dude Edwards' campaign in 1969, and then 1970. The reason the mayor was like out to get him, the chick wasn't a fan of him, was because he like went out of his way to try and sabotage her campaign. So she wanted to ensure that like Hunter had no say in like what was happening in Aspen. And there is this like underlying sentiment of like resentment towards the hippies, which they kind of do direct at Hunter, but like at this point in time, they don't really set up that he's like a well-established sports writer. Like they barely allude to it. Like they mentioned the Kentucky Derby piece that he did for Rolling Stone because he's in San Francisco at the one point, and he's talking to I guess like a chief editor of Rolling Stone, kind of spitballing ideas and like what he's gonna do, and that's kind of where he concocts the idea. Like he comes up with the idea of like needing a story, but like at the same time he kind of like the gears start turning towards like, you know, at the Aspen thing. So they don't really like explain that before like these political ambitions that seemingly come out of like nowhere, like kind of the origin of that, nor like do they explain that he's like a well-established writer and did, despite like running with the hippies and being seen as like way too left of conservative, even though like he was a gun owner and he believed in like the freedom of speech, obviously, like, you know, a lot of the liberties that the Constitution provides, and being like, you know, to like sarcastic albeit, but like a very patriotic American and like a country loving person. He just like they don't really set it up like that. You just kind of like have to know that about him. Otherwise, like this film might make like zero sense to you. And I kind of understand now why people were like frustrated with it. If you don't know who the guy is, this is not the film for you. You got to do a little bit of homework, sweetheart. Fucking yeah, like this is not one with the training wheels on it. But I will give it that. Like if you do know a little bit about him, this should hit you right. Like it's perfect. It's fine. It was a good attempt. Like it's a little frustrating at times because it is a slow movie. But like I think they were just trying to make the best of like what they had to work with, and not, you know, like understandably, if like you're in a lockdown and like you can't get shit, you have to go out to the woods and kind of like improvise, and like all the interviews or whatever you were supposed to do got completely fucking shut down. Like I'm positive that this is like the next best thing, and whoever the fuck Bobby Kennedy III is, like, you know, congratulations, you did a fucking fine job. Like I hope to see more work like this. Hopefully it's a little bit less condensed and a little less like you know, rushed, but you did the best with what you had. And you know what, like I'm not gonna fucking hold that against anybody, especially like the fact that this is like an original idea. It's an original idea in the sense that it's like this isn't a story that was like very widely publicized. It's not like a story that many people are aware of, if even in the context of like knowing who Hunter S. Thompson is. And it's cool that you kind of get to see it. Like there's something that's very interesting about like insider movies, like movies where you have to kind of know that the movie is winking and nodding at you, And it's just like, come on, just enjoy it. Like, just enjoy it. Like, Super Troopers is a fucking excellent movie for that reason. And here's the brilliance of what Broken Lizards does with Super Troopers. I mean, I might have conveyed this when I did the Slam and Salmon, but I'm not entirely sure. The movie winks and nods at you because every person on the face of Earth that has ever driven a car or like been out in public, you've had some mild uncomfortable interaction with a police officer. And what this does is it smiles and winks at every person that has ever had like either a negative interaction with a cop or like just like an interaction with a cop where they felt like in some facet uncomfortable. The movie does a perfect job of like smiling and winking. But you know what else it does is a double-edged sword, because there's a million cops that have seen this movie, and I know for a fact all of them love Super Troopers, but they don't really see it as that way. They're just like, oh yeah, like this is like what me and the boys do down at the station when we're slow. Like we're crack ups like this, you know, like this is what they're fucking quoting when they're not busy like fucking doing TikToks or whatever the fuck cops do now. So like it's one of those things where this film, when it presents itself, it kind of has this like fuck you to authority attitude, but it's like, it's not artificial, but it is very much of the esteem of like, oh, we're going to take like something very serious, and like the gravity of the situation will affect like thousands and thousands of people. You know, the outcome of a new sheriff being in town, especially in a small country town where people are, you know, rather conservative, and they're trying to like enjoy the benefits of your town being like slightly gentrified. There are caveats, but like at the same time, your status is elevated. Your like your town gets something that it didn't have before, and like you're not really I guess like what this film like pokes fun at is like, this is like a very serious situation for these people, and it does a really good job of expressing that. But like if you were unaware of like who Hunter S. Thompson was before this, it just kind of seems like this dude's being like a dick for no reason, and just kind of being like, oh, like, yeah, suck it, people. Like it pokes fun at authority in that facet, and like I like that kind of like it's like, you know, he's being like, the film nods and winks at you like, yeah, you're aware of who he is. He's not like really trying to cause these people any harm. He's just being a smart ass because it makes them like mildly uncomfortable. And then like you get that. I enjoy that. I enjoy that element of it. Like I'm sure that somewhere out there people are like bummed out. Like I'm sure there's like a shitload of people that are like, you know, Coachella fucking love hippie fucking drippy fuckers that like watched it, got 5 minutes into this film and were like, man, like they deliberately like delay the fucking drug use because they like until like about like an hour and 20 minutes into the film. And I think that's specifically because if they like started with that, people would just be like, man, I just like the scene where you're just like drinking the mescaline and driving the convertible around, man. And then like the rest of the film is like kind of a bummer, but like because that's what the status quo is now. But this is smart enough to like kind of mask all of those things, because like, yeah, this is Hunter like he's doing a suspiciously low amount of cocaine, and then like it's all in one scene. I'm like, oh, okay, like I get it now. Like you guys are just trying to keep it focused on the narrative and like, you know, focused on the idea of the story. I just like actually had a nice little back and forth with my buddy Lee, Mr. Lee Benoit, shout out, what up Lee, about the tone of this film too. And I was like, they got the tone perfectly. Like there's like I said, it's not a perfect film. It's a far from perfect film, but the tone of this film is like very, even though sometimes it's like lost in translation with like the sarcasm and timing that Hunter had, him like just getting under people's skin without them really having a reason to do anything further than just like react in the exact way he wants you to react. Like where he brings mud to the town hall, or like he's like fucking bailing people out of jail, like just to be an asshole. There's like, like a tone to it, where you just get this like tone of like you're doing something generous in a douchey way, but it's not like a bad thing. It's just you're doing it to get under somebody's skin, and there's something that's very hard to convey cinematically, and it does it without it outright saying like, look at him being a smart, like having the mayor call him a sarcastic fuck, or like her absolutely blowing her lid on him and like, you know, calling him out for what he is, and like kind of the like their lack of seriousness for it, I guess would be the best like way of putting it. They do it in just a subtle way, and it's like it's hard to convey shit like that, but it took a risk in that sense. Like I guess that's another reason why people weren't like huge fans. It doesn't really spell much shit out for you. Like the subtext is very heavy in this. If you're not willing to like actually pay attention to what they're doing, you know, to kind of understand like the wit of who the you know the subject of the film is, then you probably have no business watching this film. It's not for you. This is something that, like, if you have no idea who this fucking guy is, this isn't going to make much sense. But if you know who it is and you appreciate what he did, then this is like you're a kid at a candy store. I got to turn my brain off for an hour and 45 minutes, but I enjoyed the shit out of it. Like it was fantastic. I liked like I think I said already about like how it's like interspliced with like, you know, real, you know, news footage, and like, you know, it seems like authentic shit. I got to give them credit because I would love to have seen the title. I'm going to look this up too, because I'm very, very interested in what, like, you know, getting all the so related media. This is on the Wikipedia article titled "The Battle of Aspen," which is about Hunter's Rolling Stone article in 1970. And then at the very bottom of this, there's a title, "Related Media." A documentary film about Hunter S. Thompson's campaign for sheriff called Freak Power, The Ballad or the Bomb was scheduled for release October 23rd, 2020, but met with difficulties during the global pandemic. This was eventually released in late summer 2021, retitled as Fear and Loathing in Aspen. It was directed by Bobby Kennedy III. And that's all there is to say about it. I'm very curious to have seen what Freak Power, The Ballad or the Bomb would have been. Like I said, I'm just absolutely fascinated. I'm enamored by Hunter's work, and I gobble up anything I can fucking find, you know, content wise on the guy. Seen, you know, Breakfast with Hunter. There's one that I was watching after I watched that documentary a couple of weeks ago about him, and he's a fascinating subject. He's somebody that you know, when I was in college, I very much enjoyed his work, and I tried to model my own writing, you know, after it. I'm not a very good writer. I do enjoy writing, but I don't think I'm like publish worthy, or at least not on my own. But like, he's somebody that like, he makes like such profound and interesting arguments, but like also like his approach to language is something that there's a reason I speak as, you know, deliberately and kind of like kookily as I do. I know I have like a very weird, you know, way of talking, and my vocabulary is all over the fucking place, but like I try to pay homage to him, where he spoke very like deliberately and like with authority, and that's like something that the actor that played him did kind of get, but he didn't kind of get. Like Hunter was a very literal person. When he asked him a question, he would respond directly, but he would do it in like an indirect way, where he'd either like answer your question with another question, or like give you like some kind of like philosophical jargon that would go nowhere, but ultimately was like enough to kind of diffuse the weight or gravity of like whatever, you know, led up to it. It just and like, I mean, he's also a fucking chaotic cokehead, like that shot himself. Like, so take that with a fucking grain of salt. Like, that's really, you know, when push comes to shove, what the stock of the person you're working with is. He's a lunatic. He's a fucking author. He's an artist. Like, they're all at the fucking lunch. There's a reason I can never fully commit to being an artist. Like, I think this is my wheelhouse. I'm a little more pragmatic. I like sitting back and kind of observing things. I've tried living with artists. It's a fucking nightmare. I've tried being an artist too. It's not my cup of tea. I like playing poker and overanalyzing movies and using my weird autism powers to try and convey good cinema and express it in a palatable and interesting way for my friends, or nobody in this case. I think Lee's actually probably going to listen to this one, because I was talking to him about it. But yeah, I think that's enough of me trying to ramble about this movie and sound smart. If you're a fan of him, I think I've beaten the thing to fucking death by now. If you're a fan of Hunter S. Thompson, watch this fucking movie. If you're at all interested in people taking politics in a sarcastic light, do a little homework, but I highly recommend it. Fear and Loathing in Aspen, not a bad fucking film. Not bad for coming out during a pandemic, too. They came out with something that's far better than any of the Marvel shit being crapped out lately. Hey, I went almost an entire episode without talking about propaganda, so it's not bad. Give myself one of these. All right, thank you for listening.